Salutations everybody, and it's Matty here today. I hope all of you are doing absolutely fantastic. I'm having a particularly very good day today. I will get into why, but nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, let's not delay any further. There's a ton of Starfield information to get into, so we'll dive straight in. If you're new here and you're into Starfield news, information, conversation, or a preview, review, impressions, consider subscribing. Now, with that, Starfield has just gone gold. It's been confirmed by Bethesda Game Studios, meaning pretty much the final product's out there, and I can confirm as much because I've downloaded the game and I have it on my Xbox because I am reviewing it. So the embargo for reviews is lifting at 12 p.m. Eastern time on August 31st. If you haven't heard, a lot of other reviewers have already posted this, so you may have. But yeah, your boy has it. And I'm trying to keep my cool here. Pardon me if I'm really trying to look cool on the outside, because on the inside, I'm freaking out a bit. Nonetheless, preloads are available for everyone right now on Xbox Series S and X. If you want to get that started up, it's a over 100 gigabyte download, so you may want to. And on PC for Steam, it's August 30th, so get to downloading. But the main bulk of today's conversation is going to be a new Q&A that just happened between Will Shen and Emil Pagliarulo over on the Starfield Discord. Now, the way this was handled was kind of weird because what happened was you would sign up for the Bethesda Game Studios Discord and join and go, okay, where's the Q&A? You actually had to sign up for Constellation and join through the website from Bethesda Game Studios, and then you would get involved in the Q&A. So it took a little bit of finagling, but I finally found my way into said Q&A, and now we're going to go over all of the brand new details for Starfield, from player housing to mechs and so on and so forth. A lot of confirmation here, a lot of things to be excited about, some things people may be disappointed about. Starting things off, we have an update on player homes that I am particularly jazzed about, because after seeing the Supra et Ultra trailer, the animated one where they showed off a penthouse, I went Bethesda, let me buy that, so help me God. And it looks like we can. So the way the answers are delivered, I'm just going to preface this right now, was in a scatter shot, which was also a little messy. So sometimes you're going to see Will and Emil saying like the same thing, but they each have little different details in there. So I have to read all their responses. So yeah, we're going to ping pong a lot with their replies. So pardon the clumsiness of all of that. But let's begin. So the question is, can we buy houses or property in main cities? To which Will says, yep, there's housing in different cities that the player can get. Some you have to purchase, and some are rewards for specific quests, plural. Meanwhile, Emil says, sure can. You can purchase a dwelling in all of the major cities in the game, and there's at least one you get for specifically completing something. Now, our man Emil is outside here. He is teasing throughout this entire Q&A how many secrets are packed into Starfield. I just love this because it's good for those who love flavor. It's also good for people like me who I don't know how I'm going to feel about the Outpost mode in Starfield, but when it's Fallout 4 settlement mode, I didn't really go too crazy with it. So I like that there's a player home I can have that I can just rest, chill at, organize the inventory, store things beyond the ship, and it doesn't have to be a place I have to go out and build. I think this is some good foresight by Bethesda this time around. Now, continuing on, we have an update on the kid stuff trait here. If we get the kid stuff trait, will our parents be generated based on our character's look, or are there standard parents put in place? What benefits might there be? To which Will says, our programmers on our new face tech were excited to make a function that could try to match your custom face and then create two parents. So they are based on what your character looks like. Although the specific math involved is a bit beyond me, we had similar tech in our previous games. To which Emil then firms that up, saying, just as we did in Fallout 3 with your dad and in Fallout 4 with your son in Starfield, if you take the kid stuff trait, your parents are based off of you. No spoilers, but I think fans will really appreciate the actors we got to play these roles. And they get so into it, it's awesome. And oh yeah, you can get stuff. Whatever that stuff may be, who knows what the parents are bringing, but nonetheless, the kid stuff trait does have value for those who are looking to see a bit of themselves in their parents, naturally so. So they're not just default. This would make a lot of sense, as Emil said, based off Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, that tech would carry over here in the Starfield. So something just worth keeping an eye out for if you end up picking that trait. Meanwhile, for the role players out there, Will says that there's a trait and background system that'll let you specify more about yourself, but you can also select an anonymous background and no traits if you want. So for the lone wolves, for the ones who don't like what's there and want to kind of do their own play style, their own headcanon, there is that option there, which is what role-playing is all about. It's just, you know, not everyone's going to exercise every option and every choice in the game. They may just do one playthrough, but it's about how they make it their very own playthrough and giving them the tools to do so. Continuing on forward here, the next question is about smuggling. How will smuggling cargo work? Can we hide it somewhere on the ship and sell it for more currency later? Emil does give us a little bit more details here, saying there are specific items that are considered contraband, meaning they're pretty much illegal everywhere. And yes, you can hide them using special ship modules you can purchase. So, don't get caught with those harvested organs. The economy is fixed, but the prices of bought and sold goods can change based on skills you choose. So it seems like if I were to steal a sandwich, we'll go back to Jamie Mallory, the sandwich thief, and I were to smuggle that sandwich in and find someone who buys smuggled goods, it's not necessarily going to go for more because it was smuggled, but perhaps if it's smuggled and you're trading with a smuggler, then maybe there is that fixed rate there that's more than the base rate I get at a typical vendor. I don't think this one was explained super well, but it seems like you can bring stuff in via a special ship module, and from there, you can start selling stuff off, which is cool. I'm very excited to see how far the contraband goes, and if we truly are going to bring in some harvested organs, which is pretty messed up. Next question here is, can you be a double agent in the game? For example, if you join the United Colonies, can you also join the Crimson Fleet and give the United Colonies information? And what factions have that feature if they do? Will says all of the playable factions can be completed independently. And then Emil says that's exactly what you do. Infiltrate the Crimson Fleet, which is kind of the space pirate organization, for the United Colonies system defense. It's specific to that quest line. Then Will continues on. The Crimson Fleet storyline does feature you being an undercover agent inside the fleet on behalf of the United Colonies system defense, a specific military branch of the United Colonies. But whether you betray the fleet or United Colonies is a choice you will get to make. Meanwhile, Emil says that the inspiration for this was the movie Donnie Brasco, which is a true story of an FBI agent who infiltrates the mafia. How far will you go? I think the factions really define a Bethesda Game Studios game through and through. I've said this time in, time out, so I won't go too crazy with it, but I'm just happy to see that there are going to be choices within them. Now, how many there will be in total is yet to be seen by anyone, but I'm just very excited that they are incorporating some stuff here like that. Completing them independently, that's Bethesda Game Studios' norm, right? And I think it's good that they're isolated, because if you're caring about choices, this can lead to more of that. If they're all interconnected, that's where things get more complex, and it's hard to add more choices and permutations when there's so much to account for. So I actually view this as pretty good news across the board, and I'm very excited to be a double agent, so to say. Minor spoiler there, I guess, but it's more of the plot setup there. But nonetheless, the next question here is, depending on traits selected during character creation, will it at all be possible to play through the game in a pacifist mode, i.e. without killing anyone, or even potentially anything? Will says he can't guarantee every mission can be completed in pacifist mode, but they do have a couple of systems that will help. We saw some of those in the Starfield Direct. Meanwhile, Emil said that this is something they talked about very early on in pre-production on whether or not they'd fully support this type of playthrough, and they said for various reasons that it wasn't feasible. But Will does mention the speech challenge game can persuade someone to do something like not fight you, and then Emil says that there are non-lethal weapons. You can also get by with dialogue, but he said he couldn't say completely comfortably that you can complete the entire game without killing anyone. He mentions that the settled systems, it's mostly civilized, but there can be a dangerous place if you're going off the beaten path, which you definitely will, to which Will also mentions that the speech challenge game is added in specific scripted moments, and they try to add them in most quests where important characters confront you. So it sounds like a bit more set up on that front. Again, this is where I think visual clarity would have gone a long way, and the Q&A almost brings in more Q's than A's, because that to me just says, okay, the speech challenge is added in specific scripted moments. Is that what we saw very, very early on in the persuasion minigame? Because if so, I thought that was going to be almost like Oblivion, where you could just snap that up whenever. But that was my personal interpretation based off past events, not exactly what Bethesda said here. But non-lethal weapons confirmed, no non-lethal playthrough guaranteed here. This could be additive down the line. I think of ship combat probably being a tough one to maneuver. Like, what happens if you put a bunch of ships in stasis with some type of like stun missile or whatever? Is that something that Bethesda could actually make possible down the line? I know that this is something that when you commit to, it's not just an option, but it becomes a primary focus, and did it take them away from other stuff? So I wouldn't have done non-lethal anyway. The only game I ever did non-lethal for was Dishonored 1. It's the only time I did a full non-lethal playthrough. I did a Ghost playthrough. I was obsessed with that game. It's one of the best games ever, in my opinion. But to those disappointed, I point to mods, of course, but I also say that this is where the Starfield do everything train hurts it, because it's doing so much that when it doesn't do something, it can upset a lot of people. So I guess it's good Bethesda's keeping expectations in a reasonable place. Now we get into the religion of Starfield. What are the beliefs and basic history of the religions that we can join, where the Sanctum Universum, Enlightened, and Great Serpent are the ones that they are talking about? Emil says existing IRL religions are a part of the Starfield universe, but not really focused on. Meanwhile, Will says the Sanctum Universum is only a couple of decades old in the timeline of Starfield, which we went over in a separate video if you want to check that out. But they gained a lot of prominence, believing that God is out there somewhere in the universe and that humanity's ability to travel to the stars brought them closer to God. Meanwhile, Emil Pagliarulo says that the Enlightened, these folks are essentially organized atheists. They don't believe in a higher kind of power and teach human beings to take care of each other and practice what they preach through various community outreach programs. And then House Varun, where he says the gossip among the guards is this: a colony ship set off for a new world, making grab jumps along the way. After one of the grab jumps, one of the passengers claims he spent the time communing with a celestial entity known as the Great Serpent. What was a few seconds for everyone else was much longer for him. And he brought back a mandate, which is basically get on board or be devoured when the Great Serpent encircles the universe. Is it true? I ain't saying. So, in the game, you face off against House Varun Zealots as an enemy group, and that's their motivation. I recently got the House Varun logo tattooed on my wrist, so yeah, I dig them, which I think is awesome personally. But I find the particular tease of a Great Serpent to be mighty tantalizing, because I look at this and then I immediately think of, you know, the powers that we saw in Starfield, and I was thinking, okay, so there's some type of supernatural thing going on out here. So a Great Serpent of some kind, a celestial entity, isn't really that far-fetched, is it? But with everything we've seen with Starfield, has been that NASA punk, that sort of realism. So what do we believe here? Again, what's great about these Q&As and the timeline and everything we've gone over is we learn a lot, but we also, I think, just don't know all that much about this world because it's so vast. Continuing on here, this is one that I think twisted a couple people up. How many companions total will we be able to recruit? Will Shen says there are over 20 named characters who can join your crew. 4 of them are from Constellation and have the most story and interaction with the player, but all of the named characters have their own backgrounds and can follow you around and carry your stuff. And then Emil says when they first began Starfield pre-production, they looked at their previous games and realized how popular and effective the companions were, so they were a big priority and they wanted to tie them directly with the main quest. There are some really big moments with them specifically. And he said he should mention that the companion voice cast is amazing and they haven't released a list yet, but you should be sure there are a lot of talented actors that bring those characters to life. Same for Constellation in general, which I'm very excited to learn about. But a lot of people thought this meant like 20 traditional Bethesda Game Studios companions. And I view this actually as 4 traditional Bethesda Game Studios companions and 16 followers, 16 adoring fans, if you will. Maybe more than that, but they have a story, a background, but I don't know if there's going to be side quests attached to all of them. However, I'm going to keep my expectations in an area that I hope doesn't lead to disappointment. Not to protect myself too much, but more so just because I don't think it's realistic to think Bethesda's going to suddenly churn out 20 full-on companions on the level of, say, something like Fallout 4. And I honestly think less is more is here. You look at the cast of Fallout 4 that could accompany you, and you get stellar ones like Nick Valentine or Kate. You also get pretty good ones like Piper and McCready, playing a little bit more into the Fallout lore angle there with McCready, which make them inherently interesting. But then you get ones like Strong or X688 or whatever the heck that synth's name is that don't play major factors at all, and they kind of exist more as followers. And I think that is where the number gets a little bit bloated here for Starfield, is that you're going to get a lot more Strongs or X688s. I apologize if I'm getting the name wrong. Point being is you're going to have, I'd say, smaller scale companions, and then you're going to have very few big scale companions with the romance options and whatnot that you've come to expect. Let's continue on. Will our companions be able to level up their perks, and will their perks stack with ours? To which Emil says that they don't level up, but they come at different ranks depending on the companion. And in a second message, he says they stack with yours when relevant. Some are there for flavor to highlight the companion's backgrounds and interest, but you'll really feel the benefit of the ship and the combat related ones, getting a boost to your shields or seeing your companion laying down fire with a weapon they're proficient in are pretty sweet moments. So you're able to stack these types of things, and it makes it more important as to why you would want to keep a companion with you. Now, we already know there are traits and bonuses for those who want to go the more lone wolf route, so you don't have to do this to totally maximize your character build, but that there is stacking here with companions does mean certain, if you will, party compositions have a bit more weight than really any prior Bethesda Game Studios game. Whereas Emil mentions here flavor, to me, a lot of my follower picks in any Bethesda Game Studios game actually was really flavor. Like, who am I rocking with? What's my story? And that was really it. Now we have a question about a jail system, if it's going to be there if we commit crimes. And the answer is yes, you can elect to go to jail, pay a fine, or even resist arrest. And then Emil mentions that the settled systems is more like Skyrim than Fallout 4's Commonwealth in that regard, meaning there's civilization, government, and laws there. So Bethesda Game Studios classic right there. Halt there, prisoner, you violated the law, right? That type of energy is right here, and I love to see that type of stuff. And then the last question we get is about mechs. Following that animated short, a lot of questions on mechs, and Emil took it away saying, so we showed this one bit in the animated shorts. The mechs are leftovers from the colony wars. He says, note it's colony war and not colony wars, singular, even though he just made a plural. I'm kind of confused by that, but he says both sides, United Colonies and Freestar Collective, had mechs, but the Freestar Collective really mastered them. The United Colonies had mechs too, but they also relied on the controlled alien beasts from their Xeno Warfare division. Kind of sounds pretty cool, actually. Both of those were outlawed with the armistice that ended the colony war. I'm not saying there's an old mech battleground in the game. I'm typing it. Mechs, not usable, no. They are in ruins. Now, a lot of people thought following the animated short that mechs would be playable. As I said before, and now we know it's confirmed, if mechs were playable, Bethesda would have marketed it because people would have bought the game for mechs alone. Now, that's not to say that mechs will never make its way into Starfield. I think the demand is clearly there, and it would definitely be a cool addition to the game. But right now, currently, no mechs in Starfield. However, there is your background on it, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw one pulled out as an enemy at some point in time, especially given the spotty history, the spotty usage of it, and even a potential old mech battleground being there, which would be really cool. I think it's something like Jakku in Star Wars, so I'm very excited to see where these all ended up. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, that's every question, every answer that I thought was relevant from the Discord Q&A with Emil Pagliarulo and Will Shen. So what do you think of their answers? Fire away down below. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the heck out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.